We are Timbersports.
United by passion for the sport.
And competition.
We chop down racism.
And say yes to tolerance.
Yes to tolerance.
Say ja till tolerans.
Yes to tolerance.
Yes to tolerance.
是的，理解宽容。
Powiedz tak tolerancji.
Ja zu Toleranz.
We are Timbersports.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the STIHL Timbersports International Women's Cup, coming to you here from the beautiful Rathausplatz in Vienna, Austria. My name is Matt Beadle and I will be your host for today, and I'm delighted to be here. We've got 5 events for you over the next few days, but more about that in a moment. Today, it's all about the women. We've got 9 athletes from 7 countries, Europe of course, but also further afield, the USA, Australia, and they will be competing in 3 disciplines to try to become the International Women's Cup winner 2022. It's been a long time coming, but Timbersports are back. I'm delighted that you are here today. We are delighted that you are here with us today. Thanks for stopping by. And I say we because I'm not alone. I am joined by the man, the myth, the legendary Timbersports commentator, Troy Mannering. It's great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Matt. Looking forward to a great event this evening, or this afternoon rather, here in Vienna. We've got a lot of fantastic athletes ready to go here. This one in particular from Australia, we've got Amanda Beams. She's probably what you could say is the favorite for this event today. Martha King from the USA is also here. So we're looking at some high-level competition, women that are ready to cut and chop their way to the top of that podium. So it's going to be an exciting day, and we'll see how things turn out as the day progresses.
We absolutely will, and really looking forward to this. It's a beautiful setting for it. It's a beautiful day.
Absolutely.
We've got crowds outside as well. The 2 of us will be reporting here from the studio, but as you can probably already hear, we've got somebody warming up the crowd on the stage, and he will also be responsible for interviews and some on-the-spot reporting. And I'm going to look now and see if we can go over to him. Can we go over to you, Florty? Marcus Flort, can you hear me? And can you give us a little bit of a feeling what the atmosphere is like there in the arena?
Of course I can. This is Vienna. This is Rathausplatz. The weather is absolutely beautiful. We've just seen our official enter the arena, and the crowd is already making some noise. Vienna, you are live on international television. Can you make some noise? Könnt ihr ein bisschen Lärm machen für alle, die hier zusehen?
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you very much,
This is
Florty.
what it sounds like. This is what it feels like on Rathausplatz, Vienna at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a beautiful Friday. Back to you guys.
Brilliant. Thank you, Florty. That's exactly what we'll do. We'll be going backwards and forwards to Marcus as the proceedings develop. He'll be giving us interviews and some on-the-spot information, as we said. Okay, so why don't we take a look at the competitors for a little while. Maybe we can see what kind of athletes we've got for us today. 9 in total, as I said. You already mentioned one of the favourites. The American could also be quite interesting, right?
Right. Well,
Martha.
I mean, Martha King is a very, very strong competitor. And the funny thing is Martha King is a very slender woman. She's small in stature compared to some of the other athletes in the field. And you would expect that, you know, maybe she doesn't have the strength, but she's absolutely incredibly accurate with her axe. So
is it technique as opposed to strength?
Well, it's a mix of both. She's very, very accurate with her axe, and so this is a thing that's going to play an absolutely key role for her in the competition against a woman like Amanda Beams, who's very powerful and very strong. strong. Now, Amanda won the Australian Championship recently, so she'll be one that we're keeping a very close eye on because she also broke the world record for underhand chop in Australia on wood that is typically a bit harder than what we're seeing here. So I'm not saying that we're going to see a world record here, but there is a possibility of it happening every single time that these athletes get on stage and start hammering away on these blocks.
Yeah, exactly. What interests me as well in the field is that we've got a range of ages.
Correct.
You know, the youngest athlete is 25. The eldest is 51 years young. Will that experience or lack of experience play a role, do you think, here?
I think it's less about the experience in this case and more about the fitness level. Of course, the experience is going to play a role. Amanda Beams is 51 years old, and she is absolutely fit when it comes to these events. So it's absolutely fantastic. And I think that we're actually going to meet the women right now as they come out on stage. It sounds like Floaty's getting ready to bring them out on stage, and we'll meet each of these ladies as they come out, and we get to see them in person, up close, and ready for competition.
Okay, so let's do that. We're getting ready on stage, making the final preparations there for the first heat. Why don't we check out a clip which tells us all about how the competition format will look today.
Now, it looks like we're going to get our women first. So
okay, yeah, the performers are being introduced. Okay, Tove is first.
This is her first appearance, as you see, in international competition, so we don't have a lot of international results for her yet, but today could be the opportunity for her to step up to the plate and start to make a name for herself. And as we've seen in the past, Sweden is really developing some fantastic competitors. We'll see Ferry Swan in the World Trophy later on this weekend. Another woman that's going to be competing here from Switzerland, Irene Murer. Silver medalist there at the Swiss Women's Championships in 2020. And you can bet that they're going to be going absolutely bananas out there. She's got a single buck, by the way, of 35.44 seconds, which is very, very good.
Another hometown girl here, Juliana Einfeld.
Yeah, you know the Austrians are going to be cheering hard for the hometown talent, always. And, you know, in Vienna in particular, the fans are great when it comes to timber sports. She's also got an excellent single buck, 20 seconds, just above 20 seconds, so that's fantastic. And then we have our first Italian in the house, Marta Poletti.
Yeah, the youngest athlete in the field today.
The youngest athlete, and I believe also the smallest athlete. She is tiny at just 163 centimeters. So, yeah, she's small, but she's a power package.
The next coming up here is Jolanda Gnedinger from Switzerland, giving a nice wave into the camera there.
Yeah, I talked with Yolanda earlier. She's a bit nervous, but she's feeling good. She's feeling confident. She's been training in the off-season to make sure that she's ready for this, but she also knows that she's got heavy competition that she's going to be going up against this weekend.
She certainly had a big smile on her face, didn't she, when she
did,
came and had
absolutely,
a coffee with us. Next performer is Alrun Übing, from Germany, the second eldest in the field, 49 years old.
And she also holds the world records for stock saw and standing block chop. So that's a very, very good thing to have in her bag. That's also a psychological advantage when the other women know that she's up there on stage.
And also from Germany, Nina Pokoyski.
36 years old, 174 centimeters tall, coming from Marburg. She's also got a great single buck, 19.51 seconds. Stock saw, 10.37 seconds. These are all great times.
It's a powerful field, isn't it?
Yeah, and now just coming up onto stage, there she is. Handshakings, and now just coming up on the stage, Martha King from the United States. Her single buck not so strong, but her stock saw is good at 16 seconds. And she's got national records for more or less all of the discipline single buck, underhand, and stock saw. And then, of course, Amanda Beams.
She was just described by Floaty on the stage as
a legend. Yeah. And she absolutely is. She absolutely is a legend. In Australia, she is the queen of timber sports. There's no questioning this woman's prowess when it comes to timber sports down under. Let's see if she can bring that to the European continent and take it a step further.
Yeah, let's do exactly that. 9 competitors, as we said. They'll be competing in 3 disciplines across today. There we can see them all on the stage there. Is it an evenly matched field of athletes today, or does it feel like 2 or 3 might run away with this?
Politically speaking, I would like to say it's an evenly matched competition today, but there are going to be, I would say, 4 women in the field that could probably run away with this competition properly. But that's the beauty of these events. You just never know. You could have a chip in your axe when you're in the middle of your cut.
Right.
You could have a knot in your wood that's going to slow you down. Anything can happen to any one of these competitors, so a favorite can all of a sudden be looking at dead last position. So that's what's so lovely about these events, in particular the format that we have today, is because they're going head to head, but it's not an elimination. It's about gaining the fastest time possible. So we'll challenge to get points throughout the day, and the athlete with the most points at the end of the day takes the top spot on the podium.
You've started doing my work for me. Let's do exactly that. No, thank you very much. Let's do exactly that and find out what the competition format is all about today. Here we go.
The STIHL Timbersports Women's Competition. All athletes will compete in 3 disciplines. The maximum points awarded for each discipline result from the number of participating athletes. The first discipline is the stock saw. The fastest athlete will receive points equal to the total number of athletes competing, down to 1 point for the last place in each discipline. The second event is the single buck. Points remain the same, awarded based on the times, and as with all events, any rule infraction will result in a disqualification, and the athlete will receive 0 points for that discipline. In the final discipline, the underhand chop, it's the athlete's last chance to claim valuable points. The points from all disciplines are accumulated, and the athlete with the highest points total wins the competition.
That's how the competition will work. Now let's find out how the individual disciplines themselves look out. Let's start by checking out the first discipline, and in particular, the tool that the athletes will be using in that discipline.
The STIHL MS661CM stock saw is used in STIHL Timbersports as the ultimate test of operator skill. Designed for the toughest jobs in forestry, it produces approximately 7.3 horsepower, has a displacement of 91.1 cc, and weighs 7.4 kilograms. To ensure evenly and fairly matched saws, professional steel technicians prepare and test the saws before each competition. Stock saw. After the starting shot, the contestants have to cut 2 wooden discs, so-called cookies, within a 10-centimeter mark, 1 downward and 1 upward. The attempt is only valid when both discs have been cut off completely and within the marks.
Okay, so the first discipline is the stock saw. As we see, Nystadt is going to be going first. She'll be in a heat on her own, followed then by 4 further heats of 2 competitors.
Yeah, that's the way this one's going to have to go throughout all of the 3 heats. This is a non-elimination setup as well. So the format here is we see each of the women or pairs of women on stage, and we're not eliminating anybody through these 3 disciplines. It's all about getting the fastest time possible. Tough job for our first-time competitor here, Tove Norstedt, coming onto stage and being on stage alone. She's got to start this competition, set the bar for the time. So it's a little bit of that situation where the stress of being in her first international competition, as well as being the first competitor out on stage and being alone, not having another competitor to read off of or, have that adrenaline rush from, it's a tough job for this young woman who's going to be basically cutting her teeth at this big event here.
Let's dive right into the first heat of the first discipline. Here we go. Heat number 1. It is Tove Nystadt.
So there you see the information for Tove Njostad. 26, 157 tall, 65 kilograms. She is a slight woman, and we'll be looking at her here on the stock saw. Now, as you heard in the description, this is a MS661 stock saw that you can go to your local steel dealership and buy right off the shelf.
Tool that anyone
there are
could
no
use.
additions to the motors. They're not pimping it up or doing anything to the saw blade or the chain. It's all right off the shelf. Now, what you'll see here is the pad underneath that saw is there to keep it from rattling and, you know, skipping away on stage. And look at how lonely she looks out there. First of all, she's tiny. She's almost the same size as that saw.
Yeah, but she's got enough fans.
She's got a great fan club in the bleachers there, so that's awesome. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
All right, a very tentative start as she gets up there on that first cut, but she's got a nice thin cookie. The transition to the upcut is very good. 9.60 is the world record for the women, and she's got a personal best right there at 13.56. So,
fantastic.
Because it's her first international competition, these scores that she's accumulating here today, in particular the times that she gets, are going to be personal bests across the board for her.
Right, makes sense. But I mean, I can imagine the experience that she's gathering from this kind of event would be, you know, fantastic for her, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. You also notice that you see right now Andy Hall.
Congratulations. The cut is good.
Yeah.
So
okay, the announcement will come from the referee, Andy Hall, after each heat to tell us whether everything was above board and correct.
Correct. And the things that you're looking for there is that you saw her cut 2 cookies. They're those so-called cookies are those discs off of that.
Here we can see them slow motion.
Off of that block there. Now you can see here's her first cut. It's a really beautiful first cut. It's nice and thin, and as they say in this sport, thin to win.
Thin to win.
Yeah, but the risk is if you're cutting thin, there is a chance that you could have a cutout, in which case you would have to go back and cut an additional cookie in order to make sure you have 2 complete cookies on the deck. And that is why the judges are there, to see if you have 2 good cookies on the deck, and that's what you see when they come down to the front of the stage with the athletes. And then our judge, Andy Hall, will say both cuts are good, which is what we like to see, and then we know that everything is good and that score counts. Also, what we'll also notice is that sometimes the time will stop, and there we saw it was like 13:49, and then they'll go back into competition control and check the beginning and the end, and there'll be sometimes an adjustment in the time. So you'll sometimes see these times become a little bit shorter, and that's going to be key when you get really close to those World Championship title times.
Okay, let's see what Heat 2 gives us then. That is Müller from Switzerland versus Einfalt from Austria.
You notice the personal best time of Irene there is 18 and change, so that's much slower than what Tove Njostad just cut. So that's it's interesting to see if she's been working on the stock saw in the off season to make sure that she's ready for this competition here today.
It'll be very interesting to see if Julia gets the local support here, whether that drives her on or not. Okay, so it's Einfalt in the black and it's Müller in the red.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Julia on the right-hand side, her fastest time is 14.44. Let's see if she can better that. She's got a great first cut. Mura coming up a little bit late on the upcut, and you can see Julia perfect. Oh no, she stopped the saw, she stalled it, and that caused big problems. What a fantastic result for Mura though, 14.90, cutting off a good 4 seconds from her time. So obviously she's been working on that in the off season, and that is fantastic. She's got a brand new personal best. That's amazing.
Fantastic, but what happened to Juliana Einfalt on the right-hand side there? She seemed to get caught on the upstroke there.
Well, what happens is if you pull too hard on the saw and try and rush it through the block, then the chain binds on the wood, and that will stall the saw. And that's a huge problem because then you have to release, restart, repull, and that's going to kill your time, and that's what happened there.
Good. Andy Hall, the referee, telling us that both cuts are good. Yeah, thumbs up and a fist up from both competitors there. They both seem delighted with that. But like you said, that getting stuck on the way up, that must be so frustrating just before the end of finishing the event, you know?
Yeah, and that's the problem with the adrenaline rush. And we can see here, You know, both of the ladies had a really good start to the cut. Excuse me, I should say women. Both of the women had a good cut. Right here, fantastic transition. She did get a little bit hooked up on her dropping cookie, and you can see here, she's really pushing down on that handle, leaning her knee into the saw, and that's where it stopped with too much upwards pressure, and that stalled the chain.
So the tendency is sometimes to overcompensate and overpress.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So we've had 2 heats, one with 1 competitor and one with 2. We're going into heat 3 now, and we're going to see the Italian Marta Poletti for the first time going up against Jolanda Gnediger from Switzerland. What can you tell us about these 2 athletes?
Well, Jolanda, first of all, has a great stock saw. She's very strong in this discipline. As long as the nerves that we saw at lunch don't overtake the situation, then she should do well here. As long as she can keep the flow on that saw going. To be honest with you, Marta Poletti also doesn't have a bad time. And if we've got good wood today, I mean, we're not seeing melons up there at this point, but if we've got good wood today, we may well see her also have a personal best. Thus far, though, Tove Neustadt from Sweden has the lead in the competition with the fastest time in stock saw. So that's an interesting situation.
The 2 personal bests here, both in the 14s. Do we see either of these challenging maybe for the top ranking?
Well, you can see the personal best there for Jolanda, 11:51. If she can cut 2 seconds off of that, she's in world record status. So
yeah, but Gnediger with 11 and change, this could be quite impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Gnediger in the red and Poletti representing Italy in the blue. So they warm up their chainsaws first to make sure that everything is good to go.
Quick check by Jolanda to make sure that she's got everything in line the way she wants. You'll sometimes see the athletes do the hang loose symbol and put the thumb against the wood to where their saw is. They really check it very closely. Here we go. Great start by Jolanda, a little bit tentative by Poletti. Gnediger, she's got a good cut going on so far. So does Poletti, though. She's gotten through that cut well. Here's the upcut, is going to be the difference maker. Oh my goodness, Jolanda is very close to the line on that upcut, and it could be that we have to check that upcut for Jolanda Gnediger and make sure that she's got a good cookie, and that could be a problem for her. If she's cut over the line, she'll be disqualified.
Okay, that will be worth looking for, but if both are good, it'll be interesting to see because there was only 2/100ths of a second between the 2 of them.
Yeah, correct. Marta Poletti with a 14.67 and Jolanda Gnediger with a 14.78. So this will be the big thing here, is if we've got good cuts.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Okay, but you had a feeling that might have been on the line a little bit.
It was very close for the upcut on Jolanda Gnediger because she came down, she had a bit of an outswing and came back up. And
we can see Poletti here, certainly at the start.
The start was fantastic for both of these women. I mean, they had a very, very good start. There's no 2 ways about that. Poletti was really, she was quite tentative at the start. You know, she could have been a little bit faster, but she was very clean through the cut. Here you can see Jolanda Gnediger. Her first cut is massively thick, and right there,
that is right on the line,
isn't it?
As she
gets on that line, I mean, it is very, very close. I'm quite surprised that she set her blocks up with that first cut in so far. It doesn't leave a lot of room in that 10 centimeters to make your second cut without, you know, if you make a small mistake there, you're done. You don't get the time or the points.
You literally don't get a second chance at this, do you?
No, not at all.
Okay, so we've seen 3 heats. We've got 2 to come. Heat number 4 coming up in the stock saw. Currently, Tove Hellstadt still leading with 13.39. 2 Germans going up against each other in Heat 4. This is Übingen against Pekoyski.
And you can see the personal best there is also the world record of 9.60 for Arlen Übing. And she'll be going up against Nina Pekoyski,
who was National Women's Champion 2019 and 2021, so quite some pedigree here.
And there you see Alren Übing.
Okay, warm up your saws.
You know that German pride is on the line here in a head-to-head matchup, so they're not going to be holding back at all.
No, I can imagine. But most of the competitors know each other, don't they? And you see that backstage before the tournaments. They encourage each other.
They do, and they help each other quite often. It's a big family, but once they're on stage, there's
all bets
no
are off,
holds-barred
right?
competition. Oh, that's a good start by Alren Übing. She's not going to make that 9, but she's got a good cut going. That's a close one for Pekoiski there on the line. 12:50 for Ubing. And Pekoiski with a 14.33. That means Alrun Ubing moves into the lead, but she's not really that much faster than Tove Neustadt. So, yeah, not the world record time that she had before, but she's happy with the top spot right now in Stocksaw. And right behind her, the newcomer to international competition, Tove Neustadt.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. We were talking at the beginning about going on your own in the first heat and how that might be a disadvantage, but it seems that Neustadt has really taken advantage of that. Still in second place after 4 heats.
Yeah, she has. I mean, for her, it's going to come down to, I think, the chopping disciplines, right. or at least the underhand chop and the single buck could be, a difficult one for a woman of her stature being so small. Let's take a look back at the slow-mo here.
Look at the focus on her face there.
Yeah, and you can see that's a big, thick cookie to start things, and that's why she got really close, what we saw with Jolanda Gnedinger earlier as well. And here, the upcut from Alrun is just absolutely a mile away from that disqualification line. That's 2 beautiful thin cookies, so you can see right away the quality of a Sawyer that she is with that machine in her hand.
We're seeing great performances already today here in the glorious sunshine in Austria. Okay, so the audience are enjoying it. We're enjoying it. The competitors seem to be enjoying themselves. Some fast times. We've got one more heat to come, and that is your favourite before the competition started, Amanda Beams from Australia, going up against possibly a dark horse or an athlete that some may be suggesting as a favourite for today's competition, Martha King from the USA.
Yeah, the last time we saw Martha King competing over here was in 2013-14, I believe.
Right.
And you don't really see a lot, unfortunately. I mean, within the timber sporting community, they're always keeping a close eye on what's happening around the world. So the Austrians and the Germans and the Swedes and the New Zealanders, the Kiwis, and the Australians, they will all know what's happening in other parts of the world. But, for our audience, unless you're a deep dive fan, you're probably not going to know a couple of the names that are up on stage. And Martha King is an absolute fierce competitor from the United States. And I believe I saw her on a American morning show not too long ago, showing the host there how it actually works with the saws and the axes. And they were absolutely surprised by the skill level that this woman has. And the thing that is very important here, we were talking to a couple of the other athletes backstage before, is the accuracy of how she cuts. Whereas the opposite, I'm not going to say opposite, Amanda Beams is also accurate,
different type
but
of
she's
technique,
got
right?
power as well.
Sure.
Athletes, ready.
So here we go. This is King on the left in red going up against Beams in the blue and yellow on the right.
Great start by King. Martha got in there really quickly, but Amanda Beams is already right at the bottom of her cookie. Holy smokes, folks. Barely a swing on that upcut for Amanda Beams. Could be a good time for her. 13.73, a personal best for both of these women.
Best. Look at that.
That is fantastic. And Amanda Beams will move into 3rd place in the overall at the moment, just behind Tove Neustadt and Alrun Ubing.
Wow, we're seeing a lot of personal best stumble today, aren't we?
Yeah, and that's fantastic. We love to see that kind of action because that just means that everything is sort of taking a leap to the next level for everybody that's getting those personal bests.
Double thumbs up from Amanda Beams there. She enjoyed it.
No, we have a flag on the play.
Ooh.
Now, that could mean that somebody's cut over the line or they cut out on the cookie, so we'll have to see and wait and see what the judges say. Could go to a video review. We'll just wait and see here.
Okay, so we made a video check for a potential full start on stand 1. However, both cuts are good.
Whew. So what was the situation there? We saw a flag on the play, but it turns out that everything was okay after all.
Yeah, so what they'll see sometimes, because they have super high-speed cameras that measure all different angles on the blocks, so what they noticed there was a very quick start from Martha King, and we saw she was fast on that saw, fast on that block, and they thought that maybe she had a false start, so jumping the gun.
Right.
And they wanted to double-check that based on their high-speed cameras with the time clock running in conjunction with the two, and that's what they did, and they found that it was a fair start, so that cut will count. And I think that's just by virtue of Martha being super fast. I mean, she was lightning fast on that saw and had a great first cut.
And that can presumably make a huge difference to the overall time, right? If you're quick enough in the draw to pick the machine up and get going quick enough, that's going to save you hundredths, maybe tenths of a second, right?
Right, but the other thing you have to realize is that it's not just depending all on the saw and sitting on it and hoping that it's going to go through fast. You really have to have good technique with the saw. And like we saw earlier on, if you pull up too hard or push down too hard, that chain is going to stall, and that's going to kill your time because you have to wait, restart the chain, and then go again.
Yeah, got it. We're seeing some beautiful shots here of the Rathausplatz. We've got audience spilling in, which is fantastic, and they're enjoying the sunshine, they're enjoying the competition. The competitors will have the opportunity in a moment to move into the next discipline. Before that happens, we have to rearrange the stage. I am told that we can go over to the arena to Florty, who hopefully has Marta King with him. Are you there, Florty? Do you have Marta? There she is.
Indeed, I have. Martha King is standing next to me. Our commentator said they have not seen a reaction as fast as yours. How was it for you? You just heard it, grabbed it, reacted?
I've been practicing my starts, so it felt like a pretty good start to me. I did hover over the wood a little bit too long, and I think that started to get in my head. But I also thought before the start my fingers might not be over the line, so I started to inch them over because I thought I don't want to be cut out of this because this is really important to me. So, oh my gosh, that was a bit stressful.
Also es war auch für Martha ein bisschen stressig. Sie hat allerdings diese Starts geübt in der letzten Zeit und das ist das gute Ergebnis dessen. Sie war sich selbst ein bisschen unsicher, ob sie nicht mit den Fingern zu weit vorne war. Für sie ist es aber ein ganzes Ritual, wo sie dann wirklich schauen muss, dass sie die Säge in die entsprechende Position bringt und das ist wunderbar aufgegangen. So welcome to Vienna. The weather is beautiful. The crowd is reacting. It's been quite some time since you had the possibility to compete in front of a crowd. So how does it feel to come to Vienna?
It feels wonderful. Yeah, it's such a blessing to be here. The weather's perfect, the crowd's great, so looking forward to bringing more heat and just really making a great show of it.
Also sie grinst von einem Ohr bis zum anderen, frei übersetzt. Es gefällt ihr wunderbar, endlich wieder vor Menschen einen Wettkampf austragen zu können. Sie bedankt sich beim Publikum, dass es jetzt schon so gut ist, das Wetter ist super und sie wird hoffentlich noch ein bisschen mehr Hitze hier hineinbringen. Just one more question. It was a personal best, so I think you can be very pleased with this one, right?
Oh, I guess it was a personal best in Poplar. I guess.
Well, I know it is, so congratulations to that.
Well, thanks.
So good of luck for the next ones, and back to you guys.
Thanks very much, Florty. It's fascinating that the competitors don't know when they've reached a personal best. That surprises me.
Well, that's the thing, right? Sometimes you don't see that on stage. You're just reacting to the situation. You make your cuts, then you go off stage. Both cuts are good. You go, whew, okay.
And you don't even take a look at the clock.
Your head is then turning to focusing on the next discipline that's coming up. So, you know, that she received that news that she's got a personal best on, and she said on poplar, because there are two types of wood that we use here, poplar and white pine. So, you know, that can affect how those personal bests. But I love how she said, yeah, it felt like I hovered above the block a little bit. I mean, she was lightning fast, in my opinion. And she says she felt like she hovered above the block. I mean, sorry, that's bananas.
Very self-deprecating. So let's take a look. We just saw it there at the ranking after the first discipline. Maybe we can see that shot again, and we can see the positions of the competitors. No, we can't see that, but we can talk us through it, certainly.
Yep, Arlen Ubing.
Ubing is leading at the moment. Yep. 12:47. Does that suggest that the times are going to be strong today?
Yeah, I think that it means the times are going to be fast throughout the day. And like I said, you know, we've got some good competitors out there. The first discipline being the stock saw. And we're moving on to the next one, which is the single buck, as we call the misery whip. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get through this one. And this is where you really need to have your endurance and your flow going.
Okay.
And we can see here the side to side with the two fastest. And our Swedish woman is there at right there with one of the top sawyers in the world in stock saw. So that's fantastic for her.
Okay, I think we are ready for our next discipline, and that will be the stock saw. So that'll be the single buck. I beg your pardon. That'll be the single buck. Let's check out what that discipline is all about.
The 2-meter-long cross-cut saw used for the single buck discipline is made especially for competition. A series of consistently patterned 10-centimeter-long teeth are cut with a laser on one side of the saw and then hand-sharpened. Saw teeth are divided into two types, cutters and rakers, just like on the old-school saws. The saw weighs about 5 kilos and its base price starts at around 1,500 euros. Single buck. The single buck is a one-man saw about 2 meters long. With this, the athletes have to cut off a complete disc from a 40-centimeter thick wooden block. The perfect interplay between rhythm and strength is the key to success.
And we are back. So we're going to be having 5 heats now. The first, Poletti will be going on her own, and then it'll be Nastadt up against Mühre in the second heat. Einfalt, Gnediger from Switzerland in the third. And there she is. Poletti is already on the stage, ready for heat 1 on her own of the single buck. Nice smile there.
Yeah, and you have to also note that she's got an assistant up there on stage with that orange wedge that he'll probably also end up spraying a lube on that saw. And that is called with assistant. Now, there are 2 types of single buck. There's with and without assistant, so there are 2 different world records that could potentially go down here, but in this one it's with assistant. The key here is to keep that saw moving. You don't want to cut it, or I should say lock it up somewhere in there by angling it just a little bit too much. It looks like Poletti's got some good flow going on there. She's using the majority of that saw to cut through nicely. I mean, her fastest time in single buck is 28.71. I don't think she's going to make that here today because she's coming pretty close, and she's got herself a bit of a hook up there. And oh boy, she did do it. She did do it, 28.27. And I imagine after adjustment, it might be even a little bit better. I misspoke. I spoke too soon. She's got herself a personal best, so fantastic for Marta Poletti.
Her previous personal best, 28.71, so she smashed it by nearly half a second there.
Yeah, fantastic.
Let's just check from the referee, Andy Hall, whether the cut was good.
Okay, congratulations. The cut is good.
There we go. Confirmation. Should be absolutely delighted with that. Fantastic. That obviously takes her into first place, but that's not difficult considering she's on her own in the first heat. Let's see what the other heats have to offer. While we're looking at the slow-mo, hopefully people have been caught by the Timber Sports bug today. This is not the only event that we'll be having all year. We will be continuing with other events, with other competitions. In particular, a particular highlight on the calendar coming up is, of course, Gothenburg in the fall.
The World Championship. We're looking forward to that big time. That is going to be a fantastic event. We were there a few years ago. Absolutely beautiful location. Lovely people. You got to draw out the screaming and yelling from them, but once they get into it, they are all over their athletes, especially when you got a guy like Ferry Swan, who undoubtedly will be competing in that event, representing his home country in his home country. You know they're going to go bananas for him.
It's going to be a great field. There we go. The audience are enjoying it here. The fans are enjoying it here. Okay, let's take a look at heat number 2. That's Nastadt versus Mühre.
Tova finally gets to go up against another competitor here and get that adrenaline flowing.
Yeah, true. She was on her own in the first heat, so let's see what the competition brings. Here in the single buck heat 2, the world record, will it still stand after this?
Now you can see here, they've already set the saw cut, and now all she's doing is she's putting the saw in upside down to get a few test strokes on that long saw to make sure that her body position is correct so that she can really throw her hips, her back leg, and her core power into that cut. Now Irene is still setting her first cut, and maybe if we do get a picture, there's a little tool that the judges will use to measure how deep that set cut is before they can start the competition.
Okay.
And once that is measured up by Andy Hall and our judges on stage, then again she does the same thing that Tova did. She sets the saw upside down. We'll take a few test strokes so that she's not illegally cutting the block, but she can still get the feel for how the saw is on that piece of wood. As I said, though, the key here is to get that saw started as quickly as possible and keep that flow going throughout the entire cut.
It's all about rhythm in this event, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Here we go. Nastadt on the left in yellow up against Mühre from Switzerland in the red on the right.
3, 2, 1, go!
Nastadt with problems right at the beginning there.
Yeah, she's really struggling to get that saw started, and you can see what's happening is that she tried to take a big stroke right off this top, and you know, she probably should have taken a couple of small strokes, but because this is her first international competition. She doesn't have any experience here going up against another competitor in these stressive moments. And meanwhile, Mura is just rocking through that, and she gets herself a personal best with a 24:12 and absolutely destroys her previous time of 35.44 seconds. Meanwhile, Tova Njostad is still trying to keep that saw moving and really get the flow going, and she's getting encouragement from Irene Mura in the background, which is fantastic to see. You can see there she's struggling to find the angle of the saw. She keeps lowering her handles, then raising them to try and find the right angle, and each time she does that, she hooks into that little tooth of wood at the bottom, and it makes it really difficult for her to get through, but she does it in 54:11, and as I said, because it's her first international competition, she'll get a personal best there with that time.
I think she looks pretty delighted with herself. You know, it wasn't the fastest time, but she completed. She kept going to the end. She didn't give it up.
Yeah, and that's that fighting spirit we see a lot with these athletes. You know, there are times when you see a guy on the springboard or really struggling with the standing block chop, and you know he's having a tough block or a really hard time, and they just don't give up. They keep that fighting spirit going. They keep pushing right through to the end.
It's a sport that lives a lot from adrenaline, right? Yes, just pure determination and pushing through to the last moment.
This cut is good.
Both cuts are good. Thank you, Andy. That's good. We like it when the athletes get to get their scores on the board. That's what it's all about. All right, let's have a look at the slow motion here. I mean, you can see the struggle. You can see the anguish and the hard work there. As you said, it's all about that angle, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, you know, it's going to be tough on that first cut anyway, so there's two different schools of thought here as far as the style is concerned. Either you take 4 or 5 short cuts to get the saw moving and then slow your cut down and start using the entire length of the saw, which is what we saw Mura do. Irene, really good style here, and you can see she set her saw into a very thin port. You know, it wasn't too deep into the block, so that makes it a little bit easier to make the cut, but it's also dangerous. If you twist, you might break the cookie off, in which case you have to cut this little tooth off with this heavy saw. So there's a lot of things that play a role here, but this was a beautiful cut by Irene Mura.
You can see the focus there and the coaching from her assistant, and a high five to finish. Beautiful. All right, let's take a look at Heat 3 then. That's Juliana Einfalt from Austria going up against Jolanda Gnediger from Switzerland.
Really well matched up pairing here, actually. Both of these women have similar personal bests. You could see there 2065 to a 1967. Jolanda, you could say, has a slight advantage based on the personal best, but you never know what's happened in the off season. And you know, we did talk to a couple of the women there, and they all have said, yeah, we've been training for this, so we're ready.
I suppose that's one of the advantages of certainly for the sports people, that they had time to train during the pandemic. You know, this is an opportunity when you're competing all the time. That wasn't possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the opportunity that you say, you know, in that off time, you can really put the pedal to the metal with your training. Make sure your fitness level is where it should be.
Yeah.
And here you see Jolanda set that saw really close to the edge so that there's not so much bite on that saw when she's cutting through. But she's got to be careful that she doesn't twist out.
Ready. Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go.
Einfalt going up against Gnediger here.
All right, Jolanda right away getting in with those long strokes. Einfalt had a little hookup right at the start. She wanted to get those short, quick strokes at the beginning, but it didn't work out for her. And meanwhile, both of them are looking quite good, and I think Jolanda might have a good time here as she gets close. Oh, a huge bow and a massive hookup for her, and that killed her time. She's got a 22.71 and a 25.53 for Juliana Einfalt.
Wouldn't it, if she hadn't had that little hook there?
That hook, I mean, you can call that little if you want to, but for me, that was a massive hookup. You know, it was like those cartoons where you see them playing those saws with the bow. Yes. That's how much of a bow she had in that saw. You put a mic next to that thing and it would have sung a tune.
But I mean, a remarkable time nonetheless. One wonders what that would have been like if she hadn't have had that.
You can cut a good 2 seconds off of the time because of that. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Okay, both cuts are good. So despite that slightly odd technique that was put through, although the time has slipped a little bit, I see. The official time has been marked down to 22 and change, 22.56. But that puts her into the lead after 5 competitors. So we move on to Heat 5. That is Martha, I beg your pardon, heat 4. That is Pokoyski versus Ubing. Again, two Germans going up against each other. We see here the
massive bows on both of them there as they get towards the middle bottom of their cuts. And there you see Jolanda Gnadinger.
There it is.
Just struggling. That saw completely locks up on her. And then finally she just gets into it with those last really aggressive strokes. So, yeah, right there. That's some disappointment face. Yeah?
That's remarkable because it's taken her into first place, but she's still disappointed.
Yeah, but let's not forget we have 2 more heats to go with some very strong competitors. And Alrun Ubing, she's no slouch when it comes to the single buck with a best time of 15.62.
So let's go ahead and check out Heat 4 then. The two Germans going up against each other, Nina Pokoyski versus Alrun Ubing. Here we go. Personal bests of 19.51 and 15.62 respectively. I suppose this makes Ubing the favourite in this heat, right?
Yes, again, we see, you know, the favourite number is definitely there. However, as we saw in the previous heat, anything can happen. You know, you get a little bit overexcited, put a little bit too much twist on the saw, break off the cookie, you know, bend that saw too much, you get a massive lockup and it cuts 2 seconds off of your time. And all of a sudden you go from leading in the pairing to being last in the pairing and losing time.
So this is going to be a huge challenge for Pokoyski, going up against the world record holder in this discipline, Alrun Ubing, also from Germany. One last deep breath, get the air in. It's a pretty energetic discipline, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very, I mean, it's a draining discipline because you're dealing with a 2-meter-long saw, and it's called single buck for a reason because you've got one person working that saw back and forth. So if you can imagine having to practice this over and over and over again so you have the power and the endurance for it.
3, 2, 1, go!
Great start by Pokoyski. Ubing going for those really long strokes. Interesting that they're back-to-back here where all of the other competitors have been facing in the same direction. Ubing, wow, look at the time here for Ubing. She's going to get to the bottom of that one quickly with a 17.85. It's a good time, and that'll put her on top of the ranking. And Pokoyski with a 22.01, and that puts her second in the ranking. So the two Germans are leading at the moment after single buck.
Yeah, Ubing, fantastic performance. They're 3 seconds faster than, I beg your pardon, 5 seconds faster than anybody else in the field today. Really setting the mark there.
Yeah, and you can see, and we'll take a look at this in the slow-mo again, but you can really see how Alrun uses the entire length of the saw. We'll take a look back. She seems really pleased with that. You know, obviously she'd like to have some record numbers here, but, you know, that's a great showing for her today.
So we've only got 2 more athletes to see in this event, so it's looking good for Ubing and Pokoyski. Ubing guaranteed top 3 placing in this discipline. If Andy Hall gives us double thumbs up.
Both cuts are good.
He does. Good. So they both go through. Ubing now leading the single buck leaderboard with a time of 17.53. Pokoyski in second place with 22.28.
And that 17.53 is a season's best, by the way.
Wow.
That SB.
Very, very good performance indeed. That means we've only got 1 more heat in the single buck.
Let's compare these two here.
Let's have a look. Look at the power and the energy going into that. Slightly stuck on the downstroke there.
Now you can see here, Alrun just absolutely using that entire saw length to her advantage. So she's got the flow, she's got the power, she's using, you know, efficiently all the teeth on that saw to cut through. And by virtue of that, you can see, watch this backstroke here, the whole saw cuts through right to the last 3 teeth. You can see that thing start to come loose, and then she's through in that great time of 17.53.
Yeah, celebrating indeed. A great performance. Will she still be leading the leaderboard after the last heat? Let's have a look. The last heat is Amanda Beams from Australia going up against Martha King from the USA. So they're just setting up on stage for a moment. So what we're going to do in the meantime is check out the upcoming events. I mentioned them briefly earlier.
Yes.
We've got a great schedule of events coming up. Here we go, competitions all the way through the year 2022. What are the highlights here for you, Troy?
Well, the Rookie World Championship, which is going to come later on today, that's going to be very interesting because we got the top rookies, and it gives us an opportunity to see the future pros in the sport. Also, the World Trophy here coming up tomorrow. Love the trophy format. Fantastic action, and it absolutely kills the guys. I mean, it is a burner from get-go to finish.
We were talking to the athletes earlier about it, weren't we? And they were saying even in training, they're absolutely exhausted.
They're gutted by the end of training. And, of course, the individual World Championship coming up in Gothenburg on the 29th of October. But, I mean, you can throw a dart at this and pick one, and it's going to be a fantastic event because it's just so fun to get into these.
We'll be there in Gothenburg. We hope you'll also be there in Gothenburg for both the Team World Championship and the Individual World Championship. Tickets are still available, so make sure you get on the Timbersports website and get yourself a ticket. Be there. It's been a while since we've all had the chance to be together for a World Championship. So, heat number 5 in the single buck, King versus Beams. Here we go.
Amanda Beams with a massive advantage here with a 33.71 second best time, whereas Martha King's time is 103.3 with assists. So, yeah, it's, I would say there's a massive discrepancy in this discipline between these two women prior to this event.
Right. Let's see what it looks like after the event.
That's the big key. Now, we know Amanda is very strong, and we know that when it comes to this particular discipline, that Australia is developing some fantastic sawyers. There's no two ways about it. This is something that the Australians absolutely dominate in. Will Martha King be able to keep up with Amanda Beams? Let's see.
So, best score today in the single buck was Ubing, 17.53. Let's see if King or Beams can beat that.
Great start by Martha King there as she got 3-4 really quick strokes, and now that she gets into the block, she's struggling a little bit, but it looks like she's going to have a great time here today. Oh yeah, Martha King getting down to the close. She's going to murder her old time. Absolutely fantastic. A season's best, 16:18, a personal best for Martha King. She slips into second place. Amanda Beams with an absolutely killer time as well with a 19:53. So both of them taking home personal best, and Amanda Beams slips up into third place in the overall standings.
And you called it, Troy. You said before this event you would say that Beams is probably the favorite, but King absolutely smashed that.
Yeah, she has done a great job on this one. She's obviously been working hard in the off time to be able to make sure that her weaker disciplines become her stronger disciplines, and that she's definitely showed here today. No two ways about it.
So, brief delay. Got to get the right shoes on.
Okay, congratulations.
Yeah, she's wearing track shoes or a version of track shoes, and you know what happens with that is you get to have better traction when you're making those cuts because you really want to push off that back leg, use your core strength to drive that saw through, and you can see the concentration here. Now here's those first short cuts. Was very quick. I mean 3-4, and then she got into it with using the entire length of the saw, and that is a great effort by Martha King.
Again, using the whole length of the saw. We saw that before with Ubing, didn't we?
Yes, we did, yeah. And that's really a difference maker. If you've got the power, the flow, and you use the entire length of the saw, it's really going to help you get through this. But like we said earlier, you know, with Martha King, she's a very accurate axe when it comes to cutting with the axe, and she's obviously taken that into the other disciplines as well.
Fantastic show of technique there. Technique over strength, you could almost say.
Yeah, definitely. And what we're noticing here also is after the adjustments coming from timing control, Martha King is now in the lead heading into the final discipline. So that's a big deal for her. Alren Ubing sitting in second place, and Amanda Beams holds on to her third place rank.
So we've had two disciplines. Maybe we could see a chart of all of the scores after two events and see where the athletes stand. King with that 15.9 took it to the top of the single buck leaderboard. Ubing 17.53 in second place. Amanda Beams there also with a strong 19.26 on any other day. That would have been a good time, but the 15.9 looks quite powerful there, doesn't it?
Actually, fantastic. And, a little bit of a change there based on, so we've got a different look on our screens here. Now with the overall standings, excuse me that I misspoke. Alren Ubing, Martha King in second place, and Amanda Beams in third place. But we're coming into the last discipline shortly, so that's going to be a telltale discipline here.
1 to go. Let's see what kind of difference it'll make. I am reliably informed that we can go live over to the arena to Florty, who's got an athlete there with him. Florty, can you hear us?
Ich stehe hier mit dem österreichischen Aushängeschild von STIHL Timbersports. Juliane, wie fühlt sich das an, nach so einer langen Zeit wieder vor Publikum agieren zu können und noch das Liga zu Hause?
Das ist eigentlich ein gutes Gefühl. Schön, hier zu sein.
Du strahlst, du hast aber ganz, ganz starke Konkurrenz. Ist das ein wichtiger Gradmesser, dass man mal sieht, wie die Besten aus Australien, wie die Besten aus den USA so drauf sind?
Ja, schon. Das ist schön zuzusehen, wie sie hacken, schneiden, alles einfach.
Und was hast du dir selber noch vorgenommen für diesen letzten Durchgang, der jetzt noch kommt?
Alles geben.
So that was short and fast. She's enjoying herself. She's very, very happy to be here in front of her home crowd. It's great to see the international competitors, to see how they engage into the sports. And of course, for the last discipline, she's going to give it all. Du bist aus Zwettl. Das ist nicht allzu weit weg von Wien. Bleibt man da in Wien bei so einem Wettkampf oder fährt man dann doch nach Hause, dass man in seinem gewohnten Bett schlafen kann und so die größte Kraft zu haben für den Wettkampf?
Man bleibt natürlich hier und unsere Kollegen zum Anfeuern für morgen und übermorgen.
Weil es einfach eine große Familie ist, oder?
Sicher.
So STIHL Timbersports is one big family. Juliane doesn't live too far away. It'd be like a 40 minutes drive, but still she's going to stay in Vienna to enjoy the STIHL Timbersports family, not only for today, but also for tomorrow and the day after, because we've got 3 days of fantastic competitions coming up. Good luck for the last discipline. Alles Gute für die letzte Disziplin, and back to you guys.
Thanks very much, Florty, and thank you, Juliane. It was lovely there to see. She's a woman of few words, but she makes her statement on the stage, doesn't she?
She does, absolutely. And I mean, she had a fantastic run there. And, you know, of course, the hometown crowd is going to be cheering along for her and giving her all the support that they can possibly give. I'm looking forward to seeing this next discipline coming up, though, because here we have a world record holder on stage, and that world record holder is currently sitting in 3rd place. Could this be the discipline to push her to the top, or will we see Martha King, who we know is an accurate cutter, move into the top spot? And let's not forget Ulrun. She has also been fantastic today.
Let's take a look at that split screen.
Oh, yes.
Competitor versus competitor.
So the 2 fastest times here, and you could see right away, Ulrun Übing, really long, powerful strokes. They're talking about using that entire saw. Martha King, hers is using a lot of the saw, but let's not say she's using 100% of it. And you can see she was quick through there. Man, was she ever good. And like I said, she's obviously been taking this particular discipline seriously, coming off a time of 1:03 and change, and having that time in the single buck. I mean, that is a huge improvement for Martha King. So great job there.
We take our sport seriously here, but we also take our impact on the environment here very seriously. Take a look and see what Timbersports does with regards to sustainability. Okay, we don't have that clip. Maybe we can organise that in a moment. Let's come back here. I mean, on the subject of sustainability anyway, if we don't have the clip, we're seeing a lot of wood out there, but it's all recycled, I'm reliably informed, all the way down to wood chips. We make sure that anything that is used here in the competitions is recycled and used as sustainably as possible, right?
Yeah, basically, you know, any of the sawdust or any of the wood chip that end up on the deck, they get swept up, they get collected, and they'll be used for instance, a lot of people are now moving to those pellet burning furnaces, and they use that extra wood to create those pellets. So there is a very conscious form of sustainability with this, because let's face it, we are cutting a lot of wood here on these events over the year. So we're not just you know, throwing the wood out there and being bananas with it. You know, it's sustainably grown, it's sustainably used, and it's sustainably recycled, which is very important for us.
Okay, we are ready for our next discipline, and that is the underhand chop. We are going to go over to the arena in a moment. You can probably already hear the stadium announcer, Marcus Flort, there telling everything about it. We are going to see the same as before, 5 heats, one going up on their own, and then 4 in pairs. Maybe we can see that on the screen here. We can see the competitors. What do you imagine might be Oh, I beg your pardon. Let's go ahead and check out the axe that is used.
Made from special steel, the blade is hand-sanded with an angle of 13 to 16 degrees. It's custom built and carefully adjusted for each competition. The weight is around 3 kilos and it's about 80 centimeters long. The blade is so sharp that you could shave with it. Underhand chop. In the past, the underhand chop technique was used to split logs. Standing on a horizontally anchored block, the athletes cut with the axe through a 27-centimeter log. The block has to be worked from both sides.
So the underhand chop, there are the 5 heats. It'll be Müller going up in heat 1 on her own, and then in heat 2, Narstadt versus Poletti, Einfalt, Übingen, Pokoski, Gnedinger, and then the last heat will be King Beams again. The first athlete is already on stage, ready to go in the underhand chop. This is Irene Müller from Austria, from Switzerland, I beg your pardon.
Athlete,
here we go, heat number 1.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, getting into it right away. Irene Müller getting into that block right away. Her fastest time with the underhand chop, 1 minute 45.48, so it's a fairly slow time for her. So hopefully she's had the chance to improve it over the season. And you can see here she's getting in there, getting some nice slabs out. It's looking pretty good. She's got to switch to the other side and cut through from both sides. That's one of the rules. They have to cut through from both sides. So you have to make sure you get deep enough on the first side so that you're not straining yourself to get through too badly on the second side. She's moved over to the other side now, facing the audience. They get a chance to see some of those blocks that are coming through. It's looking good for Irene so far. She's just passing the 46-second mark, and can she get there in under a minute? She's pretty close, and it doesn't look like she's going to make it in under a minute, but hopefully she can get there in a shorter time than her personal best, and I have a feeling that she's going to manage that. But this is a very, very tough discipline because you have to be really accurate, you have to have the power, and you have to make sure you get those hits nice and clean. 1 minute 10, it looks like she's getting close now. A few more drivers, as a couple of those are skipping. It could be that she's got a knot in there, and that's really troublesome for her. Hey, and there she goes. She's through it in 1:19.95. That's a personal best for Irene Müller.
Wonderful performance. Obviously, that takes her into first place so far in this discipline, but a time of 1:19.72, and it's a personal best, as you said. Wonderful performance from Müller there.
Denn dann können wir ein weiteres Häkchen unter ein neuerliches Personal Best setzen, aber warten wir sicherheitshalber noch.
All right, so that was a pretty good result for Irene Müller. She's going to be happy about that. Let's face it, she's got a personal best, and she's going to improve that every time she gets out there, and she's going to do her best to increase her power, her accuracy, and her drivers there. And you can see she is pretty pleased about that because her personal best previously, 1:45.48, that's a definite big improvement for her. Very good.
Fantastic performance. I mean, really great. We were saying before that maybe sometimes being on your own is a disadvantage. It hasn't been the case today. We've seen the performers or the athletes on their own give really strong times.
Yeah. And as you can see here, beautiful technique with the axe. Draws it up, slides her hand down as she takes the driver swing from high up, keeping an eye on that block. She knows that piece of equipment like the back of her hand. A couple of times there, she was hitting directly in the middle of the block, and you saw it kind of jar her arm. It almost looked like the axe skipped a little bit, but at this point, she's done a good job, and she's through in a good time of 1:19.72.
She is. Okay, let's go straight to Heat 2 then, and we're going to see Narstadt again from Sweden going up against Poletti from Italy. Poletti is the youngest athlete in the field, only 25 years old, and also the lightest. She's quite a lithe character, only 56 kilos.
Yeah.
But that helps her to be quicker, presumably, and more sporty.
Well, I talked about this with a couple of the other guys earlier, and there's a school of thought that if you got a lot of muscles, you got the power and you may have the accuracy as well, but those muscles also drag you down a little bit because your body needs more blood, more oxygen to feed those muscles. Whereas, if you're a slighter athlete but you have good endurance and good accuracy, that could be an advantage for you. So this is a trend that we're seeing in a lot of different sports where traditionally you've seen big, bulky, beefy dudes. They're becoming a little bit more thin and wiry and powerful.
Okay. So let's check out Njärstad in yellow for Sweden, up against Poletti from Italy in the blue on the right.
2,
Here we go.
1, go!
Good start for both of them as they've got a nice rhythm going on between the two of them. It almost looks like they're in sync with one another. Nice big slabs coming off for Poletti as she's getting some good drivers in there. Getting up a little bit high on those cuts there. She needs to get down a bit lower. There you go. Getting down deep into the bottom of that block as she is trying to work through on that first side. Meanwhile, Njärstad on the yellow jersey there, looking good on the first side. I imagine she's probably going to slip over to the other side after a couple more drivers here because she's nice and deep into that first side. And she should feel comfortable about moving over, and there she goes. And both of them move over to the other side. It's a pretty evenly matched heat between the two of them. The stocks are the underhand chop for Poletti, by the way, is 1:15.55. We don't have a time for Tove Njärstad because she is a first-time international competitor, but after this one, she will have a time as the seconds have just gone past the 1 minute mark here.
1:19.72 is the time to beat, set by Irene Müller in Heat 1 on her own. And it looks like these two athletes are not going to beat that.
No. Poletti really struggling to get some of those slabs out. She's got great accuracy. There's a nice big one on the right-hand side of your screen. But it's Njärstad with, looks like both of them get DQ'd as the time is exceeded here. That's a bit of a bummer. You don't want to see that happen because a DQ basically means no points for either of these women. And this is something that they're going to take to the bank. They're going to say, okay, I know what I need to do, and I'm going to come back stronger in this discipline. But let's face it, they've gone through 2 disciplines already today, and in particular having the single buck before this one, that's a draining discipline.
And it's incredibly hot out here. I think we should mention that as well. It's these are really draining conditions. Unfortunately, both Njärstad and Poletti didn't qualify there, but like you say, you win or you learn, right?
That's right, and that's a fantastic way of looking at it, Matt, because, if you don't win these things, you make the mistakes and you learn from them. That's really, that's a positive way of looking at it. Both of them had a really good start. Interesting position here by Poletti. She had that axe handle going really down deep, so she didn't pull up on the axe handle at the last moment to get that driver into the block as clean as she should. Watch the technique here. She's running it right in between her legs, where you see other athletes, they'll actually heave up on the handle to add just that one little lever into the block.
Yeah, that last swing, that last moment of momentum.
Correct. You'll see that with Amanda Beams later on, and it's one of the reasons why she is one of the best in the world.
Talking about the best in the world, we've got Juliana Einfalt from Austria and Alrun Übing from Germany coming up against each other in the next heat. They've both got sub-55 second underhand chop personal best, so this could be quite impressive.
Yeah, this is going to be a really evenly matched heat between the two of them, as we're still looking at the highlights from Marta Poletti and Tove Njärstad. And lots of support from the Austrian folks in the background there.
That little one doesn't seem as impressed, does she?
Yeah, but I like the headset. That's good stuff.
So here we go. We've got Einfalt from Austria going up against Übingen from Germany. As we said, both almost identical personal best, so this could be very close.
Yeah, I mean, this should be a good battle. And once again, we've got a couple of women with experience, with power, and with accuracy getting ready to go on stage.
So we're looking at Juliana Einfalt there, just going through the motions, psychologically preparing herself.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, psychologically preparing yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a lot of mental preparation before these events, right? Because let's not forget, all of these athletes are dealing with extremely dangerous pieces of equipment. So, you know, you gotta be ready to go. You can't be afraid of it. Yeah. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, power drivers from both of these women as they get into it. Alrun Ubing looking very good on the right-hand side, doing it for Germany. Juliana Einfalt on the left-hand side. Oh yeah, some nice big slaps coming off for Juliana there as she's getting right into it. Look how she gets up on her tippy toes, and that's amazing when you're standing on that little tiny block, you know, getting up on your tippy toes to get every ounce of power into that driver going down. And you can see she's already moved over to the other side of her block, and she is really going for it here today. Juliana Einfalt with the advantage now. She's moved over to the other side. Arlen Ubing still working on the first side of her block. I think she's thinking about going deep and then having less to do on the back side.
They have to come from both sides, right?
They have to cut through from both sides. You cannot just go through the whole block from one side. But Alrun Ubing has really struggled on the first side of her block, and she still hasn't moved over. And both of them have gone past the minute mark. Juliana Einfalt with a definite advantage here, and I suspect maybe 3 or 4 more drivers for her should get her through, as it's just a thread more or less that's hanging onto that block there. But there's a large piece at the bottom that she needs to cut down low on.
And both again have not matched or beaten Mura's time. So Mura's still out in front on her own.
She's still out in front on her own, yeah. So it's maybe the advantage today to be on your own on the stage.
It seems so, doesn't it?
Yeah. And again, DQs. A couple of DQs. So maybe the wood is a little bit harder than expected here. Now, I thought, you know, that we might have softer wood here because a lot of people have been saying, yeah, the wood's a bit softer in Europe as opposed to in other parts of the world, like in Australia, for instance. They tend to have a bit harder wood. So, yeah, that's an unfortunate situation.
It's unfortunate, but I tell you what's going to be very interesting will be to see the leaders table in a moment, because Ubing was right up there, and that DQ is going to really hurt her chances.
Yeah, that's a big problem for both of these ladies, actually. Alrun Ubing was at the top, but with the DQ, there's going to be some changes here with a couple more heats to go here in the underhand chop. Namely, we've got Nina Pokoyski and Jolanda Gnedinger both coming out onto the stage shortly. And both of these women have really, you know, pretty good times for, you know, their personal bests. Nina Pokoyski with a 44.46 and Jolanda Gnedinger with a 43.53. That said, we also saw a couple of women that were just on stage with times under 55 that exceeded the time limit. So it's an unusual situation that we've just seen right there, and it's an unfortunate situation for Alrun Ubing and Juliana Einfalt.
Well, interesting is that Ubing is still at the top of the leaderboard with 17 points, but she's only got points from 2 disciplines.
Correct.
And we've got a number of athletes to come who have a chance in the 3rd discipline. So let's see if her first place in the leaderboard stands. The next heat in the underhand chop will be Pokoyski going up against Gnedinger. We're just seeing the last clips here of Einfalt versus Ubing. Real disappointment, real surprise of both of them there. Let's see if anyone can leap above Ubing into top spot on the leaderboard after the underhand chop.
All right, so yeah, I mean, what have we seen so far? 4 DQs because of time limits.
That really surprised
exceeded.
me, I've got to say.
I'm very surprised by that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I wonder whether it might be the weather. It's incredibly hot here. It's incredibly hot in the studio as well. But bless the athletes, it's even hotter for them. So I wonder if that's playing a role. But also the fact that you said that, interestingly, the best time, and in fact the only qualifying time we've seen so far, has been in the heat where the athlete went on her own.
Yeah, weird, huh?
Yeah, yeah. You would have expected that kind of competition to rally a little bit, but it's tough. It is tough out there. We've got 2 more heats coming up. We've got Gnedinger, Pokoyski, and then King, and then Beams. Any standout athletes in this particular discipline coming up?
Well, for sure, Amanda Beams. But I mean, before we talk about her, we should go over to Floaty, because I think he's with Alrun Ubing right now.
Okay, then let's go over to heat number 4, and I beg your pardon. We are going to an interview. My apologies. We are going to an interview with Alrun Ubing, and we can see Florty there rating. Florty, over to you, my friend.
So Alrun is standing next to me. Es freut mich jedes Mal, wenn du auf Besuch bist, egal ob du gerade einen Weltrekord gehackt hast oder ob du disqualifiziert wurdest. Du hast immer ein Lächeln im Gesicht, das macht dich einfach so charmant. Aber ich muss trotzdem fragen, was war denn los?
Also das Holz war anders als dieser Testblock. Bei dem Testblock hatte ich die Axt ausprobiert, die war super für das Holz. Und hier war das halt eben nicht so, und dann ist es so, ist auch nicht schlimm. Hat Spaß gemacht, hier dabei zu sein, und ja, ich würde jederzeit wiederkommen.
Das wollen wir hoffen, dass du jederzeit wiederkommst. Da gibt es natürlich auch einen Applaus schon von deinen Fans. Du bist immer und überall gern gesehen. Du hast ja auch in den ersten 2 Disziplinen richtig abgerockt. Also man hat das Gefühl gehabt, hey, du bist richtig gut drauf. Hast du die letzten Monate für Training gut nützen können?
Die letzten 2 Monate habe ich ganz gut nutzen können. Davor war das halt nicht so, aber es geht halt immer nur so, wie es mit dem normalen Leben zu vereinbaren ist. Und was geht, geht halt. Und da muss man halt gucken, wie es läuft am Tag.
Ich liebe das, du bist immer so entspannt. Es gab ja auch eine Schrecksekunde heute. Wir haben ja gar nicht gewusst, ob nicht vielleicht mit deiner Hand was passiert ist, dass du gar nicht antreten kannst. Magst du uns dazu vielleicht ganz kurz was erzählen und vielleicht auch zeigen?
Ja, also ich habe einen kleinen Unfall gehabt am Mittwochabend noch. Ich habe mir die Hand sehr... Und die war sehr geschwollen. Ich wusste nicht, ob ich heute überhaupt antreten kann. Ich bin aber hergefahren in der Hoffnung, dass es klappt. Und heute Morgen habe ich dann ausprobiert, ob es funktioniert, und gesagt, ich mache mit auf jeden Fall.
Und du hast uns begeistert. Es ist ganz, ganz toll, dich hier zu haben. Alrun, das ist dein Applaus, das sind deine Fans. Wunderschön, dass du da bist. Vielen, vielen Dank. And Matt, all the translation, I think, will be taken over by you, right?
Thank you very much, Florty. Absolutely no. I mean, she was saying how delighted she was to have performed so well here today, and surprisingly well, considering that she injured her hand this week. So a fantastic performance by Alrun Ubing. Well done there. We are ready for Heat 4. That's Pekoski from Germany going up against Jolanda Gnedinger from Switzerland.
Yeah, and again, we're looking at those 2 personal best times that are very, very similar to one another. And again, we can say Jolanda Gnedinger has a slight advantage, but it's not by much. However, we have seen a couple of times go over unexpectedly of that DQ time limit. So will that be a similar situation, or will these 2 women go for it and get through that block in a good time?
It's certainly all open here with 4 athletes already DQing in the underhand chop. So any score at all here would certainly leap people up the leaderboard.
Athletes, ready.
Pekoski in black on the left going up against Gnedinger in the red from Switzerland on the right.
The anticipation is thick. A quick start by Jolanda Gnedinger, and she's got a good frequency of drivers into that block. That means she's hitting about 1.5 times faster than Pekoski on the black, or wearing the black jersey on the other side of the stage there from this angle, as we see the fly cam go above them. Gnedinger with the red jersey looking good as she's gotten in deep on that first side of the block. She needs to get down low there and get a couple of slabs out of the bottom to give some freedom of movement as she gets to the other side. The question is, which of these 2 women will move to the other side of their block first? Both of them still trying to work on that first side as we get close to the 40-second mark here. And I think we're both going to go over their personal bests here of 44 without any word of a problem. Gnedinger, the first to move over to the other side. Now she's really got to work it because she wants to be done in under the 1:30 time limit here. Nice accurate shots, though, by Jolanda Gnedinger. Pekoski now moving over to the other side. Nina also with some great accurate shots, finally slabbing out some of those pieces off of that block. Passing the 1:10 mark. It's getting close to the wire here for both of these women. Oh, my goodness.
1:19, the time from Mura still stands, and it still stands. Getting close to that brutal 1:30 cutoff.
You can see the time there running in front of them, but they're definitely not paying attention to that. Oh my goodness, look at what we're seeing here today.
Wow.
6 disqualifications due to exceeding the time limit. That is seriously unusual.
Extraordinary.
Seriously unusual.
Wow, I mean, Irene Mura's got to be absolutely delighted with her performance, which was, 11 seconds under the cutoff, and not a single athlete since has been able to even get within 90 seconds, under 90 seconds. Extraordinary. You can see the disappointment on her face.
Yeah, they're both going to be, for lack of a better word, not happy.
Good choice of words there, Troy. Well done, sir.
I wanted to keep it neutral for our younger audience members out there.
So
absolutely right. Let's just check if they are...
So both are sadly disqualified.
Both, yeah, confirmation there.
Yeah, I mean,
from
it was
Andy
clear after the 130, though. I mean, DQs across the board here. So only one athlete has managed to put a time down today here, and that is Irene Mura. Great job by the Swiss woman.
It really is, and it's put her in a terrific position now for the overall competition, because the more athletes that don't even lodge a score in the third discipline, the greater the chances that Irene has got of maybe walking away with this thing. We're going to have to see how it develops.
Yeah. I mean, she's currently sitting in second place, and, the next two women to come on stage, Martha King and Amanda Beams, we saw Martha King make a massive, massive improvement in her single buck.
Yes. Yeah, if either one of them, Martha King currently in third place, Beams in fourth place, Irene Mura the only athlete so far to have lodged a score in 3 rounds. Okay, it's all happening here in the International Women's Cup. It's also all going to happen, dear viewer, in Gothenburg, in Sweden, in the last weekend of October. Yep. We will be there.
Yes, sir.
Timbersports will be there. We hope that you will be too. The individual World Championships, the team World Championships. It's going to be a fantastic weekend of competition. Tickets are still available, so make sure that you get them as soon as you possibly can, and we will hopefully see you there in Gothenburg. It's great to be back with these live events again, isn't
Make it rain and get tickets. Come on.
All right, we've got... There it is.
There you go. Get your tickets now.
Yeah, the message was simple, wasn't it?
Simple.
It was,
get your tickets now. Otherwise, we're coming for you.
Joking aside, it's going to be an absolutely mammoth event, so we really do hope that we see you there. We've got time here for one more heat in the Underhand Chop.
This should be a big one.
Yes. I mean, we saw fireworks from these two in the last heat.
Yes.
So let's see. And both of them have the opportunity to go to the top of the leaderboard. So we got Martha King going up against Amanda Beams.
Amanda Beams has the world record in this discipline with the same wood, but in Australia, where it tends to be a bit harder. So she should be in her element here. Martha King, on the other hand, I do believe they're chopping white pine in the United States, so it could be a little bit different, as I believe they're chopping on poplar here today. So let's see.
Interesting. Okay,
let's see. Here we go.
Amanda Beams representing Australia going up against Martha King from the United States in red on the left.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Keep a close eye on how quickly Amanda Beams moves that axe as well. See, already she's getting into it with quick axe movement. Martha King doing quite the same, though, and you can see how accurate. We talked about her accuracy and how she needs to be very accurate, being a slighter competitor. But look at this. Amanda Beams got the accuracy, and she's got the power, and she's moved over to the other side of the block already, but so has Martha King. This is going to be a great competition between these two women. Look at them going blow for blow here. Absolutely fantastic action from both of them, and you can see that wood is definitely harder, but the two of them seem to be right in their element as they've just passed the 35-second mark. There's going to be no world record dropping here, but it's a personal best for Martha King with the fastest time of the day in the Underhand Chop, and Amanda Beams comes through with a 38.08. What a fantastic effort by both of these women. Jeez Louise, can you believe that?
Whoa, we saved the best to last here, didn't we? That was remarkable.
Well, they called it the two favorite athletes, Amanda Beams and Martha King, and I thought for sure Amanda Beams would take Martha down, being one of the strongest with this underhand chop discipline, but Martha King has showed us something here today.
Has she ever? 2 remarkable times there. 36.80 for King and 40.61 from Amanda Beams.
Both cuts are good.
Yes, both cuts are good. That's what we wanted to hear. And we will see in a moment that that has really helped both of their cases in the whole competition here. Remarkable stuff. Great finish.
Well, I mean, if I read this standings board correctly, and I'm pretty sure I do because I went to school, math not so my thing, but thankfully they've got computers
It's there
to
in
do
black
the
and
work
white though
for
for
us.
us, isn't it? Let's be honest.
But I mean, if you look at the way that Amanda Beams here, she was very quick with the axe. Martha King absolutely throwing everything she's got into it. And there's that little pull of the axe handle as she comes around to the other side.
Yes, you were talking about that earlier, weren't you?
Yeah, wait until she gets into the block a little bit here and you'll see it again. She doesn't get up on her tippy toes so much in the first couple of drivers here, but as she gets into the block, she does take a step up into the tippy toes and then just lifts her hand slightly as that axe head comes down into the block. Such clean cuts for Martha though, and there was that last driver that put her on top of this discipline's timing with an absolutely fantastic time of 36.80. And Amanda Beams, after adjustment, was a 40.61, so well off her world record speed. But nonetheless, both of these women will get points from this event as both cuts were good and both cuts were under the 40-second or 50-second mark, let's put it that way. And
remarkable stuff, remarkable stuff. So the final results of that discipline, I beg your pardon, the final results of the whole day sees that the winner today of the International Women's Cup is Martha King from the United States with a total of 23 points. The fantastic performance in the last heat brought Beams through to second place, and Ubing and Mura make up third and fourth respectively with 17 and 13 points.
I mean, that's a fantastic result for Martha King. I'm not going to say it's unexpected, but I halfway thought that Alren Ubing or Amanda Beams would have been on top of that podium here today. But, you know, it's a great turn of events for Martha, obviously, traveling all that way to come here. And she's going to be on the top of the podium. Amanda Beams, second place. I mean, you know she's a competitor. You know she wanted to be on top, but she's going to be happy with second place. And Alren Ubing with an injured hand, we heard from that interview with Floty earlier, and deciding to come and compete anyway. And, you know, she put down a good time in the first two disciplines, unfortunately DQ'd on a timeout on the last discipline, but a great job by her nonetheless.
A great job by her nonetheless. We are going to see the award ceremony in just a moment, but before we do, a little teaser for the next event up at 6 o'clock this evening.
Oh, yes.
Il y a des rookies qui ont beaucoup de potentiel. C'est des jeunes qui ont du pep, qui ont de l'énergie.
The young generation is really good. I think the pro will watch up. They are coming.
Also mein Ziel ist es auf jeden Fall in die letzte Runde zu kommen. Auch Springboard zu hacken ist natürlich ein bisschen schwierig.
Oh, we have a tough relationship. It's a bit of a love and hate one.
You are not allowed to do any mistakes. If you do that, you're out.
That is the Rookie Championship coming up in just a couple of hours. We have had the International Women's Cup here. It's been absolutely fantastic. Martha King ended up as the overall winner. We can go over to Floty now, down in the arena. Floty, what's the atmosphere like that? What was that about then, eh?
Rathausplatz Vienna, are you guys ready for the big winner ceremony? Indeed you are. Wir kommen zu den Ergebnissen. Auf Platz 9 unsere Österreicherin Juliana Einfalt, 4 Punkte. Auf Platz 8 from Italy Marta Poletti, 6 points. 8 points, and position 7 goes to Sweden, Tove Njostad. On position 6 aus der Schweiz, ebenfalls mit 8 Punkten, Jolanda Gnedinger. Der 5. Platz, meine Damen und Herren, geht an Deutschlands Nina Pokojoski. 12 Punkte konnte sie erreichen. 13 Punkte gehen wieder in die Schweiz. Irene Murer. Und das bringt uns zu den Top 3. Die Bronzemedaille. Und jetzt darf es hier in Wien nochmal so richtig laut werden. Trotz eines DQs in der letzten Disziplin. Ladies and Gentlemen, make some noise for the one and only Underhand Chop. Silver medalists with 22 points. All the way from down under. Die weiteste Anreise, meine Damen und Herren. Die älteste Teilnehmerin im Feld, man darf das sagen, ich habe das mit ihr abgesprochen. Eine unglaubliche Powerfrau. From Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, the silver medal goes to the one and only, the legend, Amanda Beams. Die Medaillen werden übrigens von Alexander Hembach, dem Geschäftsführer von STIHL Österreich, überreicht. General Manager of STIHL Austria, Alexander Hembach, is handing over the medals as we slowly but surely can announce the gold medalists. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, lieber Rathausplatz, Wien, die Gewinnerin des heutigen International Women's Cup 2022 kommt aus den United States of America and her name is Martha King. What a performance! Putting a big smile also on the face of Alexander Hembach, who is handing over the gold medal. Auf Platz 3. Adron Übing. Auf Platz 2, Amanda Beams. And the gold medalists, and therefore the receiver of the trophy, is Martha King, United States of America. And here comes the trophy! Und zu Ehren unserer Siegerin gibt es natürlich nicht nur einen tosenden Applaus, sondern natürlich auch die Nationalhymne der USA. Ladies and Gentlemen, the national anthem of the United States of America. Was für ein Auftakt zu diesem STIHL Timbersports Wochenende am Rathausplatz in Wien. Adron Übing auf der 3, Amanda Beams auf der 2 und Martha King, USA. Und Gold, it is time for Champagne. Und da holen wir natürlich alle Athletinnen mit dazu. Juliana Einfalt, Marta Poletti, Toben Jostad, Jolanda Gnedinger, Nina Pokoiski,
Hashtag kiss my axe.
Love it.
Amanda
Best
Beams,
hashtag ever.
and today's winner, Martha King. Ja, wunderschöne Schlussbilder hier am Rathausplatz in Wien. Liebe Extremsportfans, es ist noch lange nicht vorbei. Um 18 Uhr startet unsere Rookie World Championship. Solltet ihr auf gar keinen Fall verpassen, und wir haben natürlich auch morgen und übermorgen ein volles Programm. Es zahlt sich also wirklich aus, das Wochenende hier am Rathausplatz gemeinsam mit STIHL Timbersports zu verbringen. Vielen, vielen Dank für eure großartige Unterstützung und ich hoffe, wir sehen uns schon um 18 Uhr wieder. In diesem Sinne noch einen wunderschönen Freitag. Danke fürs Dabeisein und bis bald.
Look there. Perfect, thank you.
Il y a des rookies qui ont beaucoup de potentiel. C'est des jeunes qui ont du pep, qui ont de l'énergie.
The young generation is really good. I think the pro will watch up. They are coming.
Also mein Ziel ist es auf jeden Fall in die letzte Runde zu kommen. Auch Springboard zu hacken ist natürlich ein bisschen schwierig.
Oh, we have a tough relationship. It's a bit of a love and hate one.
You are not allowed to do any mistakes. If you do that, you're out.
And welcome back to the studio. Congratulations to the winner today, Martha King. How does it feel?
It feels wonderful. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind because I only got into the competition a week ago. I was coaching a training camp in the Netherlands, had to have gear flown over. My saws only arrived yesterday, so it was very stressful.
They say that the three things that you need most to compete is preparation, 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 but it doesn't sound like your preparation was as good as it maybe could have been.
That's right. And I think for every competitor, we would always prefer to have more preparation than anything when we're actually at the event. But you got to trust the foundation that you've built. You know, I've been competing for about 9 years professionally, so I've got to rely on, my skills that I've already set and trust myself, the subconscious, to really just take over through the act.
Yeah, we definitely saw that today. It seems very hot out there today. Did the conditions play a role? Did you notice the heat?
A little bit. I think it was part nerves. My hands were a bit more sweaty than usual, and it was a bit of an adjustment going from, I think it was probably in the 60s back home to about 80 degrees here.
Yeah,
so,
pretty hot.
Yeah, you got to try to roll with it, though.
Got to roll with it. You heard it here first. Talk us through the three disciplines then. How did you feel you did in each of the three?
So the stock saw, that is definitely one of my tougher events just because it's so mental. You really have to be on the top of your game. Any slight little bobble can set you back a couple places. I train and compete in White Pine back home.
Right.
So this
and the wood's different here in Europe, right?
Yes. So where I might be able to put a ton of pressure on that saw and really, really run it, today I really needed to go lighter on it, and I didn't. I was just trying to just muscle it just a little bit.
Got it. So trying to push it too hard, maybe. Okay, okay. And then discipline number 2?
Discipline number 2, that is the single buck. I have improved at over the last couple of years, and I really enjoy it, actually. It's quite an art. And I knew that I've got a really good saw, and I've got a good technique, and I just needed to trust it and let it flow. You know, put the stock saw behind me, really let that go, and thankfully I took first in that to garner more points.
And then the underhand chop, were you surprised that so many competitors today didn't even rank a score?
Yes, but then when I got up there and realized how firm it was, and I was trying to cut with slope, and I couldn't find it, so I just beat that thing apart. Of course, I want it to look much better because I know my coach back home is shaking his head, but he always tells me, you know, pictures on the scorecard, so you just have to fight through it. You know, ignore that condemnation if you mess up. Just keep pushing through, pushing through.
I know that the coach back home won't be shaking his head at the result. Martha King, congratulations. The winner 2022 of the International Women's Cup.
Thank you. And if I could say, I wanted to dedicate my performance or the win to Martin Komarek, a dear friend of mine, a dear friend of many of us, and quite a competitor, a true champion. So that's for Martin.
Beautiful words. Thank you very much indeed, Martha. Beautiful words there. Great performance. It's been a fantastic day. Let's take a look at some of the highlights. We're up. Great job. We're up.
Thank you.